Department of Computer Engineering and Information Technology. We are from Devi Mahalakshmi Polytechnic, Titwada. Semester 5th. Subject OSY, Operating System, and chapter number 5, Memory Management. This chapter is given for (14 marks) and teaching hours is 10 hours. Now, in this chapter, we will learn the basic memory management, virtual memory management, and page replacements algorithms. These are the 3 topics important in this memory management. So, the first in this video of the first 5th chapter, the basic memory management. In this, we will introduce the basic memory management learning outcome of this video. The basic memory management to understand the partitionings in memory management, and we will discuss about the free space management in these operating systems in this memory management system. So let's start the basics of the memory management. Memory management. It is the functionality of an operating system which handles or manages primary memory and moves processes back and forth between main memory and disks during the execution. Memory management keeps track of each and every memory location regardless of either it is allocated to some process or it is free. It checks how much memory is to be allocated to processes. It decided which process will get memory at what time. It tracks whenever some memory gets freed or unallocated, and correspondingly it updates the status. In an ideal world, has a memory that is the very large, very fasting storing capacity are there, and it is the most of the non-volatile. That means it doesn't go any away when the power is turned off. In the real world, has memory that is very large, very fast and affordable, and in the memory hierarchy in the computer system design. The memory hierarchy is an enhancement to organize the memory such that it can minimize the access time. The main hierarchy was developed based on an program's behavior known as locality of references. In a memory hierarchy design, the level 0 up to level 4 are there. In level 0, the CPU and registers are there. In level 1 belongs to the cache memory. Level 2 is the main memory. Level 3 is the magnetic disk, and level 4 is the magnetic tape. This memory hierarchy design is divided into 2 main types. The first is the external memory or the secondary memory, and internal memory or primary memory. In external memory, comprising of magnetic disks, optical disks, magnetic tape, that is, the peripheral storage devices which are accessible by the processor via input-output model. And number second is the internal memory or the primary memory. The compromising of a main memory, cache memory, and CPU registers. This is directly accessible by the processor. Some of the characteristics of a memory hierarchy is the capacity is there. It is the global value of information the memory can store. As we move from top to bottoms in the hierarchy, the capacity increases. Secondly, the access time. It is the time interval between the read or write request and the availability of the data. As we move from top to bottoms in the hierarchy, the access time increases. Thirdly, the performance. Earlier, when the computer systems was designed without memory hierarchy design, the speed gap increases between the CPU register and main memory due to large difference in access time. This results in a lower performance of the system and thus enhancement was required. This enhancement was made in the form of memory hierarchy design because of let's start the introductions to memory management. Main memory refers to a physical memory, that is the internal memory to the computer. The word main is used to distinguish it from the external mass storage devices such as the disk drive. The main memory is also known as the RAM. The computer is able to change only data that is in a main memory. Therefore, every programs we execute and every file we access must be copied from a storage device into main memory. All the programs are loaded in the main memory for execution. Sometimes complete programs is loaded into the memory, but sometimes a certain part or routine of the programs is loaded into the main memory only when it is called by the program. This mechanism is called dynamic loading. This enhances the performance. Also, at times one programs is depends on. Then next is the partitioning in memory management. In operating system, memory management is the functions responsible for allocating and managing computer's main memory. Memory management functions keeps track of the status of each memory location, either allocated or free to ensure effective and efficient use of primary memory. There are two memory management techniques are there, the contiguous and non-contiguous. In contiguous technique, executing process must be loaded entirely in main memory. Contiguous techniques can be divided into fixed partitions and variable partitioning. Fixed is also called as the static partitioning and variable is also called as dynamic partitioning. Now, in the fixed partitioning, now we will see the fixed partitioning. This is the oldest and simplest techniques used to put more than one processes in the main memory. In this partitioning, number of partitions in RAM are fixed, but size of each partitions may or may not be same. As it is contiguous allocations, hence no spanning is allowed. Here partitions are made before executions or during the system configuration. In the fixed partitions there are the some we have to make the partitions in the memory. The first process is only consuming 1 MB out of the 4 MB in the main memory. Hence, the internal fragmentations in a first block is 4 minus 1 is equal to 3 MB. And sum of the internal fragmentations in every block is the 4 minus 1 plus 8 minus 7. These are the allocating partitioning parts in the main memory. So they are the size of this. The advantages of the fixed partitioning is the easy to implement. The algorithms needed to implement the fixed partitionings are easy to implement. It simply requires the putting a process into a certain partition without focusing on the emergence of the internals and the external fragmentation. And the second advantage is of the little operating system's overhead. The processing of a fixed partitioning require lesser access and indirect computational power. Disadvantages of a fixed partitioning. The first is the internal fragmentation. Main memory use inefficient. Any programs, no matters how small, occupies an entire partition. Next is the memory and multiprogramming. Memory needs two things for the multiprogramming. The first is the relocation and second is the protection. And the operating system cannot be certain where a programs will be loaded in a memory. Multiprogramming, sharing the processor when two or more programs reside in memory at the same time is referred as a multiprogram. Multiprogramming assumes a single shared processor. Multiprogramming increases the CPU utilization by organizing jobs so that the CPU always has one to execute. In the figure shows the memory layout for a multiprogramming systems. The operating systems does the following activity related to the multiprogram. The operating system keeps several jobs in memory at a time. These sets of jobs is a subset of the jobs kept in the job pool. The operating system picks and begins to execute one of the jobs in the memory. Multiprogramming operating systems monitor the state of all active programs and system resources using memory management programs to ensure that the CPU is never idle unless there are no jobs to process. Some advantages regarding the multiprogramming. The high and efficient CPU utilizations and the user feels that many programs are allotted the CPU almost Next is the base and limit register in memory management. It should be noted that from the memory chip's point of view, all memory accesses are equivalent. The memory hardware doesn't know what a particular part of memory is being used for, nor does it care. This is almost true of the OS as well, although not entirely. The CPU can only access its registers and main memory. It cannot, for example, make direct access to the hard drive. So any data stored there must first be transferred into the main memory chips before the CPU can work with it. The device drivers communicate with their hardware via interrupt and memory accesses, sending short instruction, for example, to transfer the data from the hard drive to a specified locations in main memory. The disk controller monitors the bus for such instructions, transfers the data and then notifies the CPU that the data is there with another interrupt. but the CPU never gets direct access to the disk. Memory accesses to main memory are comparatively slow and may take a number of clock ticks to complete. This would require the intervals waiting by the CPU if it were not for an intermediary fast memory caching built into most modern CPUs. User processes must be restricted that they only access a memory location that belongs to that particular process. This is usually implemented using a base register and a limit register for each process. Figure shows every memory access made by a user process is checked against these two registers, and if memory access is attempted outside the valid range, then a fatal error is generated. The OS obviously has access to all existing memory locations, as this is necessary to swap users' code and data in and out of memory. It should also be obvious that changes the contents of the base and limit register is a privileged activity allowed only to the operating system kernel. In this, address bindings are there. The user programs typically refer to the memory addresses with a symbolic name such as I, count, and average temperature. These symbolic names must be mapped or bound to the physical memory addresses, which typically occurs in the several stages. The first is the compile time, the load times, and third is executable times. In this base and limit generation, the address generators are there, the physical addresses and the logical addresses. The addresses generated by the CPU, it is called as. Next is the swapping. Swapping is a mechanism in which a process can be swapped temporarily out of a main memory or moved to secondary storage disks and make that memory available to other processes. At some later time, the system swaps back the process from the secondary storage to main memory. Though performance is usually affected by the swapping process, but it helps in running multiple and big processes in parallel, and that's the reason. Swapping is also known as a technique for memory competition. Memory allocation changes as the processes come into memory. Processes leave memory. They swap to disks and they complete the executions are there. In this figure show, the gray regions are the unused memory. Yellow is denoting the operating system, and A, B, C, D is the usable memory. Then, and gray colors is denoted, gray regions are as unused memory. The total time taken. Next is the allocating memory, the memory allocation. Memory allocations is the process of setting aside sections of memory in a program to be used to store variables and instances of structures and classes. Suppose there are the several choices, which one to use, the first fit, next fit, and best fit. When you declare a variables or an instance of a structure or class, the memory for that the object is allocated by the operating system. The name you declare that the object can then be used to access that block of memory. When you use dynamic memory allocations, you have the operating systems design a block of memory of the appropriate size while the programs is running. This is done either with the new operator or with a call to the memory allocations malloc function. The block of memory is allocated and a pointer to the block is written. This is then stored in the pointer to the appropriate data type. Depending on the type of OS, there are two possible algorithms that can be implemented in order to locate a block of memory in the heap to allocate: the first fit and best fit. The first fit, the needed amount of memory is allocated in the first block located in the heap that is big enough, and this is the faster but can result in greater fragmentations of the heap. And the first best fit freeing memory, but I will explain the partitions allocations in the previous slide also. The memory is divided into different blocks or partitions. Each process is allocated according to the requirement. Partitions allocations is an ideal method to avoid the internal fragmentation. I have already explained about the best fit and first fit, but I will explain again. The first fit, in this type fit, the partitions is allocated, which is the first sufficient block from the beginning of the main memory. Best fit, it allocates the processing to the partition that is the first smallest partitions among the free partitions. Worst fit, it allocates the processing to the partitions which is the largest sufficient freely available partition in the main memory. Then the next fit, it is the mostly similar to the first fit, but this fit searches for the first sufficient partition from the last allocation point. Next, the free space management in memory management. The system keeps tracks of the free disk blocks for allocating space to files when they are created. Also to reuse the space releases from the deleting the files. Free space management becomes crucial. The system maintains a free space list which keeps track of the disk blocks that are not allocated to some file or directory. The free space list can be implemented mainly as the first is bitmap or bit vector. A bitmap or bit vector is a series or collections of bits where each bit corresponds to a disk block. The bit can take two values, 0 and 1. The 0 indicates that the block is allocated and 1 indicates a free block. The given instance of a disk blocks on the disk in figure 1 is shown in here, where green blocks are allocated, can be represented by a bitmap of 16 bits as a 0001110000010 is there. Some of the advantages of them, they simple to understand. Second is the finding the first free block is efficient. It requires scanning the words. A group of 8 bits in a bitmap. Next is the linked list. In this approach, the free disk blocks are linked together. That is, free block contains a pointer to the next free block. The block number of the very first disk block is stored at a separate location on a disk and is also cached in a memory. Figure shows this space is list head points to block 5, which points to block 6 The next, free block and so on. The last free block would contain a null pointer indicating the end of free list. The drawback of this method is. Thank you.